So today we want to speak about the Rambam, Maimonides. We want to speak about something exciting. I know we were all fighting the cold, a lot of snow, but this is good. It's healthy, I should say. Cold is good. Hopefully kills all the bacteria. But we want, well, not, I understand with COVID, we need the heat to kill it, right? And not the cold. But we want to be healthy. We want to be happy. And we want to do what Hashem wants us to do. It's nice to have Cheryl. Cheryl, we missed you last week. And Cheryl wrote me such a beautiful email. I didn't have a chance to answer her, but Cheryl, I will, God willing. I'm sorry, things were so busy, especially with the rabbi being away and year end, and Simon is away next week, so it just doesn't finish. The Maimonides was a great person, a great rabbi, a great philosopher, a great Talmud, physician, halacha, communal leader, who lived about 851 years ago. It was called Maimonides because his father's name was Maimon. His name is Rabbi Moshe Ben Maimon. I always think that his thing shows my glasses upside down, but that's okay. He lived in the 12th century, mostly in Egypt. He was born, though, in Spain. He lived in Spain, in Cordova, and unfortunately, in those years, some of us will learn the history. The Islam decided that everybody either would proclaim that Muhammad is the right prophet, or we die, God forbid. Let the Jew convert or die. And it was a very difficult time, very, very difficult time, with darkness of light of the nights. They went with swords, killed Jews, burnt shuls, and it was very hard. And at that time, the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe Ben Maimon, was a 10-year-old child, him and his brother David. And with the parents, with the father Maimon, he was a great rabbi, the father, and they were all trying to hide from the sword. There were many Jews that were very scared, to say, well, we don't live in Muhammad because they're going to be killed, and they couldn't run away. So they just said, openly, they said, no, we believe in Muhammad, but really they did not live Yiddishkeit, God forbid. They still kept everything in secrecy. And that was a big problem, because many people decided to say that, many authorities, that those Jews are not considered Jews anymore. The Jews who fled, and I'll say soon what the Rambam said, the Jews, it was in 1848, many Jews couldn't stay anymore, and with them also Maimon and with Rabbi Moshe, with the Rambam and his brother, and they decided to go through the Mediterranean and go to Morocco. They fled Spain. It was really, really hard to live there from all the fanatics, Islamists and so on and so forth, unfortunately. And they came to the city of Fez. And they were hoping over there it will be good. Unfortunately, life there also was very, very difficult. And they were forced in many ways to, as well there, to try, either they convert or they had to keep Torah and Mitzvahs in a secret way, as we said. The Rambam at that time was 24 years old. He was 14 years later. And already before his bar mitzvah, he learned so much Torah from his father. He was already a great scholar there, which was amazing. When you think a bar mitzvah child, we get all happy when our son can read the Torah, or they say a nice speech and something like that. And here's a scholar, a child that knew so much, or reviewed so much, and he was able to teach and so on and so forth. And as I mentioned before, unfortunately, because many Jewish people at that time had, on the open, said that they believed in Muhammad, but really they didn't, there was a lot of arguments broke out amongst the Jewish sages of the day, and many had condemned them very badly, and they said, well, they cannot come back to the Jews because they're really not Jewish. Why did they say that they believe in Muhammad, and so on and so forth? Even though the Rambam was a young man, he felt very bad, and he knew that it's wrong to condemn, to say that those Jews are not Jewish. It doesn't mean that the Rambam had believed in that, the Rambam did not say that it was right to do it, that it was right to say that Muhammad is the prophet, and still to continue, it's okay to do it, and secretly to live as Jewish people, as we know that people in Spain have done it also with the Spanish Inquisition. It's really scary to do it because many people, they were forced to, and then after many years they stopped being Jewish because they forgot already that the grandparents kept Jewish secretly, right? So obviously it's not, we cannot say the right thing to do, but those people were forced. And what the Rambam has done, he decided, he wrote a whole letter, a whole teaching, and it's a famous letter that is called Unforced Conversion. Forced conversion, which means that those Jews were forced to convert to Islam. They really didn't believe in it. And basically what he explained there with many proofs from the Talmud, brilliant, he showed a lot of brilliancy. He was such a brilliant man, and he wrote that those Jews, they were hidden Jews, but the really Jewish people, the really Jews, we cannot say that they are not Jewish. And when they are able to run away and join back the Jewish communities where the Islam is not, running after them and trying to make them convert and so on and so forth, we have to consider them as full-fledged Jews, status of full-fledged Jews, and then everybody actually followed it, but it was not easy for the Rambam, but he took stand and he knew that he had to help them, and he knew that according to Torah, it was okay. What I'm saying is that he didn't say it's the right thing to do, and as we said, the scary part is, and we do know that in Spain, during the Spanish Inquisition, many, many Jews we know that have done that. It was very hard to stand with the test, either to be killed or to leave the country. And we do know that many descendants of those Jews did not stay, they didn't really stay Jewish, because so many generations later, if they did not come back to it, they already forgot. And many people come and they say, well, I know that we are from those Jews, but they intermarried, they assimilated, and then it's a problem. If they want to come back to Judaism, they have to convert according to halacha. But here it was just a short time and they came back right away. So the Rambam said, we cannot say that they lost the status as Jews. And that takes a lot of guts and, effort to do something like that. And he was then, as we say, a young man of 24 years old. He brought that idea of his, that letter on forced conversion, he made it very public. And everybody read it. Also, the people who weren't Jews, right? I'm sorry, I can't think of the word. The Muslims read it as well, and they were very angry because basically in that letter, he obviously explained that they're still Jews, but he had to explain that it's wrong. They did not really believe in Muhammad. Muhammad is not the right prophet, and so on and so forth. And he bashes Islam there, he's just saying that it's not the truth. The Yiddishkeit is the truth. So the people were angry at him. And one time, as he was walking in the city, he found himself surrounded with many people who wanted, basically, they were bloodthirsty and they wanted to kill him. And he tried to run away and he fled, but he saw that he was, they seized him all around. So he ran to the first gate. It's actually the first time I read that story, and obviously it's a true story. And it says that the gates of the city in Fez are still in Morocco, Fez, Morocco, still have those names because of the big miracle that happened to the Rambam. So when he came to the first gate and he saw that he couldn't run away, they were all around him, he said the name of Hashem. And a big miracle happened and a lion appeared, imagine. So the people ran away and he ran to the second gate, but there were still a lot of bloodthirsty Muslims that wanted still to get him. So they ran to the second gate and he saw that he can't run away. He said again Hashem's name. And obviously because he was such a great tzaddik that he was able to do that, and we're learning it in the parsha of this week as well. If we'll have time, with Moshe. Remember the Egyptian that he wanted to whatever punish him. Moshe just said Hashem's name. He didn't have to kill him with a sword or anything like that, and the person died. I mean, they were obviously great people. And when he said on the second gate, what happened is that the people that were around fell on the floor pinned with chains, and they couldn't get up. So he ran to the third gate. And when he came to the third gate, a big pillar of fire appeared, and he was able to escape. And to this day, just imagine those miracles. I know we read it so quickly, but just imagine the Rambam being in that position. To this day, those gates are testimony of the miracles that happened, because the gates are called, one is called the Lion's Gate, the other one is called the Gate of Chains, and the third one is called the Gate of Fire. The Rambam didn't have it easy when he was growing up. It was hard, fleeing from one place to another, then with his family as well later on. People passed away in his family and so on. He was a very determined person. He would help everybody, whoever he was able to help. He was a great scholar that would share his knowledge and so on and so forth. And now when that happened in Morocco, that people were trying to get him, and Baruch Hashem, he had the big miracle of the three gates, but he realized that he better run away again, because who knows if he's going to keep on having miracles. So he was Spain, Cordova, he went to Morocco. In those years, it wasn't easy to travel, as we know, and now he decided to go to Egypt. And that was the place that he lived for the rest of his life. And when he came to Egypt, obviously, everybody, he continued teaching everyone. He learned how to be a physician. We won't go into all the details, how he learned to do that. And he was, as we know, the private doctor of the Sultan, right? Now, and he was obviously the chief rabbi. We know the incident, I don't know if you ever read it or not, was an amazing story with the Rambam. He would always help everyone, whether you were able to pay him or not. He would heal everyone. There's a letter that the Rambam wrote. I don't remember exactly to whom, perhaps to his brother, to one of his friends. And he wrote his schedule of the day, how he gets up early and he has to be in the palace for the Sultan, and then he does that, then he heals people because the whole day people are coming to him, and obviously he cannot say no to no one. And then he would study and help, and like a whole day was very, very busy. There's also a known story that some person that came to him wanted to see really how good of a doctor he was, because people would come and just tell the Rambam they're sick, and he was able to look in their face, he would know what they need and so on and so forth. And that was just a healthy person. So he came to the Rambam and said, he's sick. What medicine should he take? Obviously, the Rambam knew. He was able to see. And he told him, just to have a healthy diet, just like a regular thing to do. He didn't give him, obviously, any medicine, something like that, because obviously he wasn't sick. And even in Egypt, when he was there were many people, as usual, unfortunately, were jealous of him. Many ministers of the king, of the Sultan, were very jealous of him, and they wanted to end his life. They were very upset that the Sultan he loved him, he was so favored in his eyes, and so on and so forth, because the Sultan saw that he is genuine, he's honest, he wants to help, he's not looking for honor, for money. He wants to do what Hashem sent him to this world to do, to teach Torah, to help people. If he has the knowledge of being a doctor, he wants to help people, with that for as much as he can, because I know in that time it was hard. The doctors that were there were Islamic people, and they did not like to help the Jewish people that were sick. So he felt that it was important for him to learn, to know, so he can help everybody. And obviously he helped everybody who came, doesn't matter what nationality they were. So one of the ministers that really, I forgot his name, really hated the Rambam, basically gave the king an ultimatum, whether either you get rid of him or we get rid of you. And he was afraid for his life. And as we know, that being a king in those years, many of the years, now we don't really have king, kind of in a different way, probably in some countries we do, but you know what I mean. We have elected officials. It was a very dangerous job because many of the kings were assassinated, whether by the family members, usually many times the people who were close to them, not by the enemies, and whoever wanted to have the throne. It was a very difficult position, and it was a very dangerous one because usually most of the kings didn't die in a normal death. They would be assassinated and somebody else would take. And then here, this guy came to threaten him, so he felt bad, but he said, yeah, I've got to kill the Rambam. So he told him, what should I do? So he told him, you know what you should do? You should tell him that tomorrow morning he has to go early in the morning to the guard that was guarding the lime pit. There was fire there, whatever, working there. And tell the Rambam to go there and ask the guard, did you do what the Sultan told you to do? And that's all. Now, what you are supposed to tell the guard, that the first person that comes in the morning to him, early in the morning, the first person that comes in the morning and asks him, did you do what the Sultan, what the Caliph told you to do? You should just take him by force and throw him in. And obviously he would get burnt. And that's what they said. That's what they told the Rambam to do. The Rambam did not know why the king told him to do it. The king was very sad to tell him to do it, but he knew that if he won't say it, then he will pay with his life. So he said, okay, so the Rambam will die. What can you do? So he called the Rambam and said, please, I want you to go tomorrow morning to this place and ask the guy, did you do what I told him to do? And then he will take him and throw him in. So the Rambam said, fine, he'll do it. He didn't know obviously why he had to do it. So he got up in the morning, he went to shul, he davened, did not rush, he davened well. And then after davening, somebody came over to him, a Jew came over to him and told him that he had a child, he had a baby boy, and he needed somebody to do a bris for his baby. And the Rambam knew how to make a bris. The Rambam said, I know the Sultan told me to go there early, but here somebody needs a bris, so I've got to help them do the bris, obviously. So he made the bris. And then after the bris, he felt very tired, so he kind of like fell asleep for a little while. Then he got up, he goes, oh, I must go. I must go to this place to ask him what's going on. So he goes to the place, and it wasn't so early in the morning, it was a little bit later. And he comes and he tells the guard, he asks the guard, so did you do what the Sultan told you to do? And he says, oh, yes, sure I did. Oh, and the guy was screaming and yelling, and he was telling me it's a mistake, it's not me. He was trying to punch me and scratch me. And I said, no, I've got to do that. So the Rambam gets quiet, and he started thinking, what's going on here? So Rambam said, what do you mean? Can you explain to me? What did you have to do? He says, well, the Sultan told me that the first person that will come to my gate, to me in the morning, next to this lime pit, and will ask me, did you do what the Sultan told you to do? I've got to grab him by force and throw him to the pit, no matter what. And you see, here, you can even look, and you can see that the guy that came, he told him the name. That was the minister that wanted to kill the Rambam. He said, here is all his ashes, the piece of his robe or whatever was left here in my hands. Wow. The Rambam lifted up his hands to heaven and he said, wow, thank you, Hashem, for saving me. Do you understand, girls, what happened? What a big miracle happened. Obviously, Hashem wanted to protect the Rambam. And this breeze came and he made the Rambam get tired and fall asleep. Meanwhile, this bad minister that knew that the Rambam would always listen to everything the Sultan tells him to do, he was sure he'll go early in the morning. So then after a few hours, he decided to go to that place and ask the guy, did you do it? He wanted to celebrate the Rambam's murdering the Rambam, basically, burning him in there. And when he came, he happened to be the first one. And as much as he screamed, it's a mistake, this and that, he realized the Rambam was never there yet. Obviously, he died. And as we say, Ken Yovdu Kol Oivecha Hashem. It's a a pasuk in the Torah, the same way all the enemies that want to hurt us, that want to hurt good people, should perish as well. So the Rambam was saved, and then the Sultan realized the miracle that happened, and he protected him, did not allow him to have any other people. I mean, everybody realized what a big miracle happened, that the guy that wanted to kill him ended up getting killed in the same way that he wanted to kill the innocent great scholar, the Rambam. The Rambam was a great scholar. He wrote, many works and so on. One of the works that he wrote, many letters, many how should I say, essays. One of the books is called Moreh Nevuchim. Moreh Nevuchim means the teachers of the complex. I forgot exactly the word in English, but it's basically somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, somebody who had questions in emunah, in faith. There was a friend, a Jew, that had a lot of questions because at that time, as we said, the Islam were trying to convert Jews and saying that they are the right and we are wrong and so on and so forth. So he wrote, about it, how if you don't believe, like many questions on Torah, and then he answers them. And remember, he lived in Egypt. He lived very far. Then he wrote the books on the Torah, the Yad HaChazakah, the 14 books and all the mitzvahs on the Torah. And it's interesting that during his lifetime, people didn't know who he was all the way back in Europe, in Germany, in Ashkenaz, in the other part of the world. The communication wasn't strong, and some people saw what he wrote. He's asking such questions about the faith of Hashem. He did it so people should want to read it. People that didn't believe should want to read it and say, wow, he's asking this, that's right. How can you believe this? How can you believe that? So people should want to take it and read it. And then he answered it so well, so beautifully, to convince them to believe in the Torah. But when people saw, they said, how can you ask even such questions? And they burned the books. They thought that it was false. Only later on, they realized who the Rambam was. Now, girls, there is a mitzvah in the Torah. It says in the Torah that we have to learn the whole Torah. How can somebody learn the whole Torah? It's so difficult. It's so hard. I mean, the Talmud is over 20 books, so many volumes, so much in discussion, and the Mishnah and Allah, and the Midrash. There is so much in the Torah. How can somebody learn the whole Torah? And this is something amazing that the Rambam had accomplished in his lifetime. Girls, the name of his books, of the 14 books, is called Yad HaChazakah. Yad means a hand. How do you spell hand? Yud and Dalet. Yud and Dalet, the numerical value of Yud and Dalet is 14. So the Rambam wrote 14 books that basically what he accomplished, that he put all the mitzvahs in the Torah, all the great sages that preceded him from Mishnah, from Medrash, from the Talmud, he put everything in those 14 books, And he explains over there all the 613 books of the Torah. In the Talmud, in the Gemara, there are many books, right? So there's many discussions. The rabbis are saying, is this correct? Is this correct? They discuss, they speak, they argue. I mean, in a good way, obviously, right? This is my opinion, like Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel, and then they come to a conclusion. What the Rambam has done is, he had collected everything and he wrote the bottom line, everything in a short way in the Rambam. This is amazing. And it's interesting that Rabbi Avadia Yosef, who was the former chief rabbi of Israel, said that something that amazing what he accomplished, that he put the whole Torah in those books, and now everybody can learn and actually know what the Torah is about, which is great. In 1984, I remember, it was 2 years before we got married, and it was on Pesach. Erev Pesach, why are we speaking tonight? I don't know if I said. Why are we speaking tonight about the Rambam? I think I did not mention that. Tonight is the Yortzeit of the Rambam. the 20th of Tevet. So tonight and tomorrow is the 20th of Tevet, and is the Yortzeit of the Rambam. That's what we're speaking today about the Rambam. And the Rambam was born Erev Pesach, Yudaled Nisan. And I remember that year on Pesach, the Rebbe spoke. I remember I was then I had a niece that was born to one of my oldest sisters who lives in Colorado, in Denver, Colorado. And I went to help her with the birth of her little girl. And I remember then I heard my brother-in-law came and he said, oh, the Rebbe said we have to learn the Rambam. So basically, one of the reasons that people were not learning Rambam so much, it was a book that was kind of in the back shelves and only some people learned it, because the Rambam teaches us about all the 613 mitzvot. Now, when we learn the 613 mitzvot commandment of the Torah, many of them don't apply now. It's sad to say because we think we know the mitzvot, this and this, but so many mitzvot we cannot do now because we don't have the Beis HaMikdash. We don't have the Holy Temple. So many mitzvot are not applicable now. Even Shemitah, right? I mean, we do it in Israel, but it's not the way it should have been with Kohanim and Levim, Jubilee, the Yovel, many mitzvot, Maaser, that we give a 10th part, and all the Maasrot. We keep some of them we keep to a certain extent, but in Israel, or the Maasrot, Challah is the only mitzvah that we do throughout the world, that when we make dough for Challah, we take off a piece. But all the other things, all the fruits and vegetables that grow in Canada, that grow somewhere else, we don't have to take off Maaser, only fruits and vegetables that grow in Israel. So in Israel, we take a part just to remember it, but we don't bring it to the Kohen. It's done in a different way. And that's why many people didn't learn it, because they said it's not applicable now. But the Rebbe said in 1984, when the Rebbe started speaking, the Rebbe said, it's so important. First of all, it's a big mitzvah that we should learn all the mitzvahs of the Torah. How can we learn all the mitzvahs of the Torah? There isn't one book that has all the mitzvahs of the Torah. Only Maimonides, only the Rambam has done it. The Rambam had compiled all the mitzvahs in one book. And the reason we're speaking about it, girls, because it's so important and it's so easy for us to do it. The way the Rebbe explained to do it is that he said we can study them. The Rebbe made a whole schedule and explained that we can do it in 3 chapters a day. The people who are able, they should learn 3 chapters a day, and they finish it in the course of a year. About 11 months, you finish all the 14 books. Whoever it's hard to do in 1 year to finish the whole Rambam, because it's 3 chapters a day, it's a lot of learning. I have to tell you, my boys sit on it every day. It's a lot. My husband, the rabbi, many rabbis, it takes a lot of time to learn. And it's amazing what the Rebbe had accomplished, that we basically have no time to waste because all the time we learn. To learn 3 chapters of Rambam a day, it takes a long time. I don't know, an hour and a half, depends on what you want to learn. Somebody who cannot, the Rebbe said they should learn at least 1 chapter a day, and that you have a course of 3 years that you finish it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think, Eugene, you were doing a chapter a day or so, if I remember. I think you were doing it with your son. What I'm doing, what many people do, and the Rebbe said for women and children, because to be honest, I learned the Chumash, I do many things, and to do 3 chapters a day or even a chapter a day, it's a lot of learning. I mean, it's not just somebody can do, but it's a little bit hard, as you're saying. So we do Sefer HaMitzvot, the book of all the mitzvot. So I will learn all the 613 mitzvot in short. In the 14 books, it says more in detail how you have to do this, how you have to do that. The mitzvah says just a synopsis. There is a mitzvah to keep Shabbos, and you have to do it this and this way, and like something like that. In the 14 books, obviously, it speaks many details, because that's the only way you can learn it all. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to learn it. So that's amazing. In the end of the year, we'll learn the 613 mitzvot. And I want to say something else that we're doing. I have here a book. Where is the book? Oh, here I have. Maybe some of you are aware. Maybe you can see Yehadas. There are special books that came up with all the 613 mitzvot. It's amazing. It's not just for children, it's for adults, for anybody, but children learn. I don't know how much you can see. But the Rebbe was so strong that we should learn the mitzvahs of the Torah. So already for years, for many years, and now it's growing big. Many kids are learning. I know my children are learning. I know that, in Calgary, the Shimonovs kids, boys and girls, the grown-ups kids, my kids learn, now Shlomo is learning. There is called Chidon HaMitzvot. Chidon means a competition. Basically, there are 5 books, and in the 5 books, you learn all the 613 mitzvot. Girls, I have to tell you, that is very, very difficult. I know Shlomo is learning now about the Beit HaMikdash, how the Beit HaMikdash was built, and the menorah, and how it had to look, and the laws of the Kohanim, how they had to light it, and Lechem HaPanim, the bread, and like details and details and details. I remember 2 years ago when Chayesta was learning, she had questions, she would call my sons, my son-in-laws, my this, and they had to look into books. She asked them hard questions they didn't know. It's amazing to see the boys and the girls learning really hard stuff. But in the end, if they actually learn all the 5 years, in the 5-year cycle, they know all the 630 mitzvot of the Torah, which is amazing knowledge. And then when they have to start learning the 3 chapters or the 1 chapter or there's the mitzvot every day, they know so much. Oh, it's familiar. They know. Like sometimes my husband is learning and Shlomo comes and says, oh, I learned that. I hear what you're saying. I know some of the stuff. It's amazing knowledge. And it's so easy, girls, to learn it. It's so easy for us to learn it. I'm not speaking about doing the 3 chapters, 1 chapter. That's a lot. It's a big commitment. But there's many apps. If you go to chabadalberta.org, chabad.org, and you do study the Sefer Mitzvot, the book of Mitzvot of the Rambam, there are apps, there are classes of Rabbi Gordon Rochel from Encino, unfortunately passed away young. He has amazing classes. You can listen to his classes. There's other classes, Rabbi Kaplan from should be well from Toronto. There are books, there are things on the internet, and it's amazing wealth, amazing knowledge, and that's what the Rebbe had accomplished, and that every year all of us actually can learn all the mitzvot of the Torah, and we are united. And it's not hard because you don't have to learn the whole Talmud with all the discussions and the mention of this, and all the Jewish people are united in one study. Every day, so many thousands of Yidden are learning the same mitzvah. It unites us in a spiritual way, it unites us in a physical way too. If I know I'm learning it and you're learning it, then we can discuss, say, oh, I have a question about that. Did you understand this? Did you understand that? I saw it at home many times when everybody's home. When that happens on Yom Tov, when everybody comes, usually we are here now, just us, me, my husband, and Shlomo, but when everybody's home and everybody's learning, we're discussing, oh, did you understand when the Rambam said this, or did you understand this? It's amazing. It's so rich. It's so wonderful to learn. And it is something that I wanted to bring up, that today is the Yortzeit of the Rambam, that we should learn from it. I did want to say as well that it's very special to myself. I have pictures of my husband in the house of the Rambam in Morocco. And that whole learning was very interesting, how it started with some of Menachem's friends that were in Morocco years ago when they were 18, 19-year-old boys that went there for the yeshiva. And they went to the house of the Rambam because, as we said, in Fez, right, the Rambam, as I mentioned before, the Rambam lived in Morocco, in Fez, Morocco, and there's his house there. I mean, other people live there now. They went, asked for permission. They allowed them to stand on the roof of the house. They didn't allow them in the house. Obviously, some other Arab Moroccans live there. And they started learning. I don't remember exactly what they have done, but they started the whole thing, to bring the Rambam back to life, those books that people really weren't studying. And then the Rebbe started speaking about it, and the whole thing started, and it's amazing. I don't have it now. I should have, I don't know where he keeps it, as I mentioned before. Some of you who joined now, you didn't hear, but he's still flying from Toronto. And maybe some other time I will show you, but there are some books where he's still, before he's married, on the roof of the house of the Rambam, which is amazing. The Rambam, when he passed away in Egypt, and he wanted to be buried in Israel. So his students, many Jews, put him in a coffin, right, to honor him, and they put him on a camel or a donkey. I thought it was a donkey, no, it was a camel. Put him on a camel, and they went to. Call me later, okay? And they started going to Israel from Egypt, right? You can just walk. Unfortunately, they had to go through a desert and through places that weren't so safe, and they encountered some bandits, and the bandits started chasing them, and they were running away for their life. They didn't know what to do. Here, they're supposed to go bury the Rambam, and here, they're trying to save themselves. So the bandits really were attacking them, so everybody ran away. And they were trying to see what is in that coffin. They thought maybe they wanted to stop the camel, and they were trying to push the camel, whatever. The camel didn't move. And they opened the coffin, and they got scared. They saw the Rambam, and obviously Hashem would not allow nobody to do anything to his holy body. So they left the coffin on the camel, and they ran away. And the camel by itself continued walking all the way to the northern part of Israel. And you know where the Rambam is buried, right? The Rambam is buried in Tveria, next to Tzfat. It's by the Galilee, by the Yam Kinneret. And you can tell it to call me later, or just don't answer, fine. Some people don't know what it means when I don't answer. They won't leave a message. When he came, the camel came to Tveria, stopped by a certain cave, and sat down. And then the people understood that this is the place that the Rambam wants to be buried. Obviously, it's a big miracle that the Rambam was not alive anymore. But as we discussed many times, that tzaddikim, when they pass away, in a way they're more alive than they are in this world, because they are more in control. Their neshama can see more far and so on. Their body is not, if I may say, functioning. We cannot see their body in a physical sense, but the holiness doesn't go away, and it stays with them. And the Rambam obviously needed to be buried in Tveria. He made the camel go all the way there, and then the Jews went there and they buried him, and so on and so forth. And on the tomb of the Rambam, of the Tzion of the Rambam, it says something very profound. Mimoshe ad Moshe lo kam kemoshe. I'll say it again for those ones who understand Hebrew. Mimoshe leMoshe lo kam kemoshe. From Moshe until Moshe, there was nobody like Moshe. What do we mean? What did the Jewish people mean when they wrote it on his tombstone? Mimoshe Rabbeinu. From Moshe Rabbeinu that gave us the Torah, till Rabbi Moshe Ben Maimon, till the Rambam, till Maimonides, there was nobody like him. And Maimonides, he called his books, his works, he called Mishneh Torah. Mishneh, Sheni, Shnaim is two, like the second Torah. Have very broad shoulders to write something like that. And perhaps till people had realized what the Rambam was, that was one of the reasons probably as well. And with the other things that he wrote about the questions that he wrote about faith. Not that he had the questions, he just wrote questions so people should want to read it. Many people, as we said, the Jewish people, the scholars in Germany, in Europe, burned his books because they didn't know who that person was. How can somebody call his books Mishneh Torah, second Torah? We have only one Torah. Obviously, we have only one Torah. But the Rambam has done in his works, he put everything, the Gemara, the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Medrash, as I said, all in one book. And that's why it's so important for us to learn it. I'm sorry, I want to hear something here that my child, no one protested where. Right. And it's an interesting part. It's always nice that to share knowledge that children are learning. Shlomo knows so many mitzvot so well. and God willing, he'll be able to join the competition in New York. I don't know. I mean, the last few years, unfortunately, since Corona, they didn't do it in person. They were doing it virtual, but he did go. He got actually 2 medals and plaques when he went before Corona. Yeah, thank you, Holly. When it was in person, but he's still studying, obviously. That when it was written on his tombstone, Mimoshe Lemoshe Lokam Kimoshe, no one protested it, and it stayed like that till today. And the important part that the Rebbe said, it's important for us to learn because we want to know all the mitzvot. Years ago, people said, why do we have to learn all the mitzvot of the Torah, the mitzvot that don't apply to us today? What will be when Mashiach will come and we're going to have the Holy Temple? Then we'll learn. Why do we have to know now what mitzvahs we have to do in Israel, what mitzvahs we have to do in the Beit HaMikdash, what mitzvahs we have to do with all the mitzvot of Kohanim and Levim and Truma and Meiser, you like to take a 10th part, and how to light the menorah, and the korbanot, and the spices, and all the things that we have to do. We don't have to learn it. The Rebbe said, no, the Rambam writes the opposite. We believe that Moshiach is coming soon. We have to believe Moshiach is coming, so we want to get ready. How do we get ready? We want to learn all the stuff. So when Moshiach will come, we'll know. Somebody wants to get married and they say, well, I'll have to cook, but I don't know how to cook. It's okay, I'll learn how to cook when I get married. Well, you learn, but you make many trial and error. It's not a very good thing. Better be prepared. Learn before. Learn how to take care of a baby before the baby is born. Otherwise, you're trying on your baby stuff that you really could have learned before. Perhaps it's not such a good example. The right example is, this is especially spiritual. When we learn all the mitzvot, we are ready. We know what has to be done in Beit HaMikdash. We know how the Kohanim have to work. We know how the Levim have to work. We know how to, I cannot comment about all the stuff, but thank you for writing, whatever you girls are writing. We know all the things are going to be happening in Beit HaMikdash in the time when Mashiach will come. That makes us more alive. That makes us more want to have Mashiach come. It makes us more live in the time of Mashiach. And that's why it's so important to learn it. And whatever you can go on, that'll be great. And the last part, very interesting, that Rambam writes in the 14th book, the last thing speaks about Hilchot Melachim. It's the laws about kings. How when you have a Jewish king, and so on and so forth. And over there, the Rambam writes, what will be when the king will come back, kingdom will come back. We don't have kingdom. In the time of the Rambam, there was no kingdom. Obviously, we were in exile. They were persecuted by the Muslims and so on and so forth, which obviously we didn't have any Jewish kings at that time. The Jewish kings were only the time that we were in Israel when when the Holy Temple was built. And the Rambam writes that when Mashiach will come, speaks about the kingdom of King David, Moshiach ben David, and so on and so forth. And it explains what will be, that when Mashiach will come, there will be lo kin'ah velo tacharut, no jealousy, no competition, lo milchama, no wars, no sicknesses, everybody will be happy, everybody will be healthy, life will be good, and will be ma'adanim metzuyim ka'afar. Ma'adan means a delicacy, something that tastes good, something that is special. Money, jewelry, silver, gold, silver, diamonds, everything will have so much of it that it'll be like afar, like dust, like sand, that you have so much of it that you don't even cherish it, because we will understand what is the true worth of life. We will know, everybody will want just to learn Torah, to be kind. We won't have to run after food, after this, after money. Everything will be so much. Everything will be so plentiful. And that is really the real reason why the world was created. To learn Torah, to be godly, to be spiritual, to be kind, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, it's taking us so many years, and God willing, Moshiach should come soon. And it's amazing that the Rambam is finishing with it. That's why I wanted so much to bring up today that amazing topic. Oh boy, it's almost 9 o'clock, about the Rambam. You can read more about his life. There were so many amazing incidents in his life, how much he learned, how much he has accomplished as a physician, as a scholar, as as just helping everybody. And as I mentioned, in his personal life, he had a hard life he went through, and he still continued on and on and on. The Shabbos is a very special Shabbos. It's the first parsha of the month, the first parsha of the second book of Shmot. Speaks about names, speaks about that the Jewish people are in the Mitzrayim, the slavery started. And actually, I learned this morning a lot about it. We're probably going to speak about it next week, but feel free to read, to learn about it. After I prepared about the Parsha, then in the middle of the day, I said, 1 minute, tonight is the Yortzeit of the Rambam. How can we not learn about the Rambam? And the reason we brought about the Rambam, because again, it's important to learn, it's important to know. We have to know about our scholars. I wanted to mention one thing. I remember I heard my father speaking to somebody in Los Angeles many years ago, some of the Russian Jews there. And they were discussing something, and my father said, it's so sad that many of us don't know the names of our great sages, of our great men and women, the Jewish great sages that contribute so much to our history, to humanity, to society. The Rambam was amazing, not just by the Jewish people, as we said, but by the non-Jewish people as well. An amazing physician, and so much we took from so much was taken from his remedies and so on later on in life as well. And so my father was speaking with that person. He said, "Oh, do you know who Maimonides was?" And it was a Jewish person, obviously. And he says, "No, I don't know." And my father said, "It's so sad, because if you will tell somebody, if somebody will say, 'Oh, I don't know who Shakespeare is, who Shakespeare was, who Mozart was, who this one was, oh, I can't believe you don't know.' And then you'll be embarrassed to say that you don't know who Shakespeare was." Why is that embarrassing, that a Jewish person doesn't know Shakespeare? But it's not embarrassing if a Jewish person doesn't know who the Rambam was, or other great sages. So, I mean, the reason I'm bringing it up is just for us to be happy. I'm so glad that all of us get together once a week, all of us get to learn once a week. And you just know, we know that so much more to learn. You can read more about the Rambam, and hopefully I was able to inspire some of you. I know some of you are learning perhaps the mitzvot of the Torah from the Rambam, but you can Google Sefer HaMitzvot, the book of mitzvot, the book of commandments of the Rambam, and it's just amazing to learn, to study, to know. And we should all grow in it. Have a wonderful Shabbos, a warm Shabbos. It's very, very cold. Next week's supposed to be very cold, and we are running a day camp, a winter camp next week. So it looks like we have to do many indoor outings, because we can't even go sledding, or we can't even go play in the snow when it's minus 22 or minus 25 and so on. And would like to wish Eugene a wonderful stay in Florida, and come back safe.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and everybody else. I know that, Alisa, you're also in a warm country, I guess?
Yes, but I'm coming back, and I'll be back on Tuesday.
Well, that's
The
nice.
28th,
That's
please
nice.
God,
Yeah,
yeah.
get ready to some cold weather. And all of us are here in Calgary, right? We should just be warm, because really the warmth is in the heart. We can be happy in a cold place, and we can be miserable in a warm place, right? It's our attitude. But obviously, cold, can be sometimes a little bit annoying, but so heat can be annoying. The main thing, we should be well, we should be healthy. Thank you so much for joining, girls.
Thank you so much. Stay warm, everybody.
My pleasure. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Take care, and we should all
Thank you.
the
Shabbat shalom.
opportunity, Shabbat Shalom, the opportunity that the Yortzeit of the Rambam to daven, that he should daven for us, he should pray for us, and we should be well and healthy. Amen, amen, amen. And we'll see you next week, and a lot of very interesting stuff to learn next week, God willing, with the coming of Mashiach. Take care. Good night. Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos,
Stay
everybody.
Good Shabbos, good
Thank
Shabbos.
you. Thank you. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.